So it's been a bit of a quiet one this week. Got home from Canberra, pulled up pretty good, but the rain set in and I jumped straight back into work. And pretty quickly my attention turned to planning the next adventure, which will be in lieu of the Hunt 1000. So I figured that now was as good a time as any to do a review. I do still consider myself a beginner, but here's my beginner thoughts on the Marin Team 2. Before I go any further too, need to make it very clear that I paid for this bike with my own money. Marin didn't give it to me, guys. I haven't always had 24 subscribers. So yeah, just putting that out there before we get started. If you haven't been following along this channel, I bought a bike at the start of Sydney's lockdown and didn't really know what I was doing, but was fairly convinced that bikepacking was going to captivate me. So I was looking for a bike that was going to take me places. Initially, I thought I wanted a gravel bike. I have a road and track cycling background, and that seemed like the adventure alternative of one of those bikes. But before too long, I realized that the trails that surround me and my home are very downhill orientated. So a gravel bike would have been really limiting if I had an hour or two to go for a ride. So a compromise was made and I ended up looking for a hardtail 29er. Now, it didn't take me long before I realized that actually sourcing a bike at the moment is very difficult. The supply chain across many industries have been impacted by COVID, and the bike industry is no exception. Finding a bike that's in stock is actually very hard. So not only was I tasked with finding a bike that suited all my needs and ticked all of my boxes, finding a bike that was in stock was actually probably the most pressing issue. Needless to say, I found the Marin Team 2. I bought it on pre-order and it actually arrived early. If you want the full rundown of all the specs, I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about here. You can check out Bicycles Online or the Marin website and it'll tell you exactly what I have. So here's my thoughts on the Marin Team 2. So it's sold as what they call an aggressive cross-country hardtail. And while that didn't mean much to me at all, I guess what was explained to me by people in the know was they've relaxed the head angle, which basically makes it more comfortable to ride downhill. I was promised that it would still roll really well on flats and climb really well, but the relaxed head angle was just going to work very much in my favor with the trails that surround me here. So that was a plus. Cost me just over $3,000 and the experience of buying it through Bicycles Online was actually very pain-free. They answered a few questions that I had. Once it was shipped, the tracking was very good. It turned up on time and yeah, with a little bit of messing around with the assembly, I got it together and it's still together, so it's kind of been all bad. So I guess it's time to talk about what I think. I guess I'll start with the things that I do like about it. For me, the Marin Team 2 is fit for purpose. And what I mean by that is this. I had a very specific list of needs with what I wanted my bike to be able to do, and the Marin Team 2 has ticked all of those boxes. Sure, there's times where I wish I had a gravel bike, and the flip side of that is there's certainly times where I'm sure if I was on a downhill bike or a dual suspension bike, I'd be much more comfortable and feel much safer. But with the full scope of riding that I put this thing through, it seems to eat it all up with ease. I've taken this thing to the bike jumps, I've done laps of the local downhill tracks, and I've spent like 8 hours on the road on this thing. And for one bike to have comfortably taken me across all those different terrains, I couldn't be happy with that. So that's definitely a plus. The next thing I really like about it is it's comfortable. I've not had a bike fit on it It's a size large, which was the recommended size that I buy for my height. I haven't had to change the seat, I haven't had to mess around with the angles or anything. I set the seat height to what I thought was appropriate. And look, I've spent up to 12 hours on this thing at a time. And I guess apart from the obvious discomfort that you get from doing 12 hours of anything, it's a really comfortable bike. Again, I can't be too clear that I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm sure that there's bikes that I could get on and instantly feel uncomfortable. And this bike is not that. The next thing I really like about it is I think it's gonna last. And what I mean by that is twofold. I ended up spending a little bit more money than what I'd hoped to spend on a bike. But with that, what I got was an upgrade in components and shocks. So while I look after my gear very well, I also expect a lot of it. And so far, it seems to be holding up. The usual wear and tear of consumables on a bike is inevitable. I just changed my chain, I've already changed the back tire. I did have to change the dropper post lever, but that was more because of my impatience. And apart from that, it's showing no signs of breaking down. The second thing I mean in saying I think it's gonna last is that in spending a little bit more money, what I feel like I got, it was no longer a beginner bike and something that's solidly in that intermediate realm. And I feel like if I were to have bought a bike at the beginner realm, very quickly I would have grown unsatisfied with what I had. I'm well aware that the bike industry does a very good job at convincing you that what you have is not good enough or not new enough or not the right color or whatever they're trying to convince you. But I feel like in making a purchase that at the time felt like a bit of a stretch has meant that I've landed myself with a bike that's gonna be with me for quite some time to come. And the last thing I'm really stoked about with this bike is it looks good. Look, I'm a classic for wearing all black. I wear all black at work, I wear all black when I'm running. So to have found a bike that ticked all of my boxes and was available for me to have, that is also all black, man, I'm stoked with that. There's plenty of bikes out there that look absolutely rubbish. And look, I would have taken it and I would have made it work and it would have been fine. But to have something that looks good and makes you feel good is only a tick in the pros column for me. So now let's talk about the things I don't like. Yeah, look, I mean, I really don't know what to say. It's an absolute joy to ride, and there's nothing I don't like about this bike. It looks good, it rides well, it takes me where I want to go, and look, I think my opinion about my bike is best summarized like this. If I had my time over, I'd buy it again. So look, I mean, it would have been nice to have given some kind of critical insight into the glaring flaw that I found having spent 4 months riding this thing, but I really didn't. Maybe that's down to my lack of understanding about what I'm actually doing. Maybe there are heaps better bikes out there, but for me, with what I know and what I want to do, this guy suits me just fine. So I'm generally not the guy who names inanimate objects, but I've spent a lot of time with this guy. Seeing as he was purchased with the intent to ride the Hunt 1000, I think I'm gonna call him Hunter. I'm actually gonna dismantle Hunter a little bit and put him in a box, because in a few days, Hunter and I are going on a plane. That's my next little adventure. Yeah, that's me done. Whoosh.